following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Chatting with Jocelyn. So glad to have you on my show today. My guest this afternoon is John Coughlin. Welcome, John.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, I had you once on the radio show, and now I have you live in studio. And I invited John here so that he could tell you a little bit about himself. He's a candidate for Hillsborough County prosecutor.
County attorney, yes.
County attorney.
Yes.
I never get that right. I'm sorry.
Well, it's a difficult because everyone thinks of DA, district attorney. They watch all the TV shows, but county attorney is the way it's designated in the Constitution and by state statute.
Well, we all just learned something. And so I think in our busy, busy lives, we don't get enough time to find out about people. And the determination for so many years is, well, yeah, I kind of like them. Yeah, I'd have a beer with them. And I think our society and our state and our country is at a place where we need to know a little bit more about people. What are your principles? Why are you running? What was your job before? What is your passion? Those kind of things. It's a very busy world. So I'd like to take the opportunity to find out about you, John.
Well, thank you. Well, first, county attorneys, it's part of county government. So we have 10 counties in New Hampshire, and we elect every 2 years county attorneys, as well as registers of deeds, probate, commissioners, the sheriff. So it's all part of county government. Personally, I grew up here in Nashua. I grew up down the street on Kinsley Street.
Oh, nice.
The corner of Kinsley and Market Street. My grandfather built that house, if you could believe that. And back then, that was the country. That was about a mile from downtown. So, and my father was born in Nashua, and he met my mother, who was going to St. Joseph School of Nursing. She's French Canadian. Nice. They moved from Canada to St. Johnsbury. So my mother, she was the oldest of four. She had three younger brothers. And she moved down here to go to school, and that's how my father and mother met.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, that is really cool, because I took a couple classes at St. Joe's, so when you go through the hospital, you can see all the different students and the nurses and stuff. It has a nice history.
And our family doctor, and one that my mother trained with, was Dr. Norman Chris Sr. Oh. There's Norman Chris Jr., but I remember his dad. Yes. His dad, he was our family doctor for many, many years.
What a small world.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Wow. So, you then moved on to, you served, didn't you?
Yes.
In the military.
I went to National High School, went to University of New Hampshire. That's where I met my wife, Pam. And this month, oh goodness, August 22nd, it'll be 45 years.
That's awesome.
Yes.
45 years, congratulations.
Yeah. So, and then I went to law school in Florida. After law school, I joined the Marine Corps. I went to OCS. The Officers Candidate School, was commissioned as a second lieutenant, became a judge advocate, and then we were stationed out in California, Southern California. Absolutely beautiful, because we had never been west of the Mississippi, so California was wonderful. I remember we were riding in Oceanside, which is kind of the town, the city right where Pendleton is, and we're riding, when we first got there, and we see this chopper motorcycle, and perched on top of the handlebars was a parrot. So I turned to my wife and said, "We've arrived in California."
Yes, we are someplace different, not New Hampshire.
But the weather was great. We enjoyed the Marine Corps. My oldest son was born at Pendleton.
Oh, nice.
And so he was born there, and then a few weeks later we moved back here to New Hampshire.
So how many years were you there?
Well, about 3 years.
Okay.
Close to 3 years.
Yeah, my family, my two brothers were born in San Diego, and we lived there for 5-6 years, and then left, and we moved every 2 years. So.
And San Diego was an absolutely beautiful city. At least this is many years ago when I was there. It was absolutely beautiful. The trouble with it is everybody else has discovered it.
Correct.
And
So it's not the way it used to be.
And they're flooding into Southern California.
Exactly. So so you went to law school in Florida, you served in the military, you came back
And practice.
and you went into law
private
practice.
even,
Private practice.
between Nashua and Hudson for many years.
Okay.
And then I was nominated to be a human rights commissioner, became a human rights commissioner for about 13 years.
Wow.
I served 8 of those years, I was the chair. And then in 1999, I decided to join the National Guard as a judge advocate.
Wow, you didn't have enough on your plate.
Well, I was 46 years old, and I said, well, I want to do something that's parochial, something local. So I joined the National Guard as a judge advocate. I was assigned to the Field Artillery Brigade in Manchester. And I thought maybe there'd be a flood, maybe it'd be a storm, an ice storm. They call out the Guard. And little did I know, in 2004, we got activated to go to Iraq. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
I had just been elected as the Hillsborough County Attorney in 2002. So I was there for about 11 months.
And then you were deployed.
And then I was gone. Well, I was a brigade JAG. There's no way I was not going to go with my unit. So I resigned and went with my unit to Iraq.
Wow.
Yeah. And while I was there, Governor Benson had just lost the election in 2004. So I got an email from him the following Saturday. And he asked if I was interested in a judicial position.
Wow. So then you came back and you became a judge.
Well, I came back and went through the public lynching, if you will, before the council. Was sworn in. And then went back and finished my tour. And I started to sit over in Derry in 2005, March 2005.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was there for a while, and then I volunteered to go back to Iraq. So 2007, I went this time to the, remember the Green Zone in the middle of Baghdad. And the Green Zone basically was sort of a bend in the river that they walled off. And that's where they had their main embassy. That's where coalition forces were. That's where
that's where you were.
That's where I was with the Security Transition Command, and I worked with the Iraqis to help build their military courts. So that was quite an experience.
That's interesting.
Right.
What was that like? Is their judicial system that different from ours?
Well, yes and no. It's sort of modeled after the French system, where they have 3 judges. Like the trial court will be a 3-judge panel, and they have the military part. And they also have they call CCCI, the Central Criminal Courts of Iraq. And if you remember, during the Surge, General Petraeus, he was big with that, with the CCCI, and we were trying to do the same thing with the military courts. So we were following their legislature as they were passing policies and procedures for the military court system, similar to our UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice. So I worked directly with the Iraqis pretty much every day to get legal advisors appointed, get judges appointed, build courthouses,
and build their infrastructure for the court systems and the justice system.
Right, and I was able to see the first post-Saddam trial, military court-martial. So that was kind of interesting, and it's so different than our system because you have 3 judges and the head judge who's a 1-star general. He's the one that asks the questions. So defense, if they want to ask a question, they ask the judge and the judge will ask it.
Really?
The same thing with the prosecutor.
So wow, that's really kind of odd.
It is different.
Does it take a lot more time?
No, not necessarily. And
do they submit them in writing?
No, they can just ask them verbally. And what was interesting too is we built the interior of the court, the actual we ordered desks, things like that, and then they built a courtroom. And defense counsel has a chair, obviously a table, but the defendant doesn't sit with them. They have it's like a large crib, like a jail, and that's in the middle of the room, and they stand there while the trial's going on.
Really?
And the witness stand is actually a witness stand. The people stand. And above the judges, there's the 3 judges sitting there, and above the judges is 3 panels from the Quran. So imagine if we had the 10 Commandments or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. But they have the 3. Of course, it's an Islamic state. It's a national religion. So they take it very seriously.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was very interesting work, and I met. In fact, we had there was one of our interpreters was Kurdish. He was Iraqi, and there was a price on his head. And back then, there was a movement to get interpreters that had been involved with coalition.
Home to help
and I remember March 17th, 2007, because it was St. Patrick's Day. I saw Senator John E. Sununu, and I had his name was we called him Mr. T. So I had his packet. And he had already submitted that, but I knew the senator, and so So I chatted with him, gave him the envelope that had the information with it too, and he did become a U.S. citizen.
Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
he came to the
Because you
United
heard
States.
about those stories.
Oh,
and
he was one step ahead of a hit squad. They were after him for his cooperation, and he had been working with the coalition members since the beginning of the war. The
now, was
liberation.
he able to bring his family over?
Well, no, but some of his family had gone to Sweden, but he was able to come here. Now he's back in Iraq.
Really?
Working with the Marines, working
Oh,
with
okay.
the military as a U.S. citizen.
Now, is his life still in jeopardy?
Well, over there, yes. That's
Okay.
always, but yeah.
But
yeah.
he's still an American citizen.
He's
so
a
he
U.S.
can come back.
citizen.
So it's a little
naturalized.
bit different.
Yeah. And I get him an email during holidays, so
Yeah.
it's great. He emails a number of people that he worked with, and it's always great to find out.
Find out what they're doing and
what he's
follow
doing.
up and not just drop off the face
Right.
of the earth.
Yeah.
Nice.
So-
So now you're back, and what made you decide that you would like to run for county attorney again?
Well, I retired from the bench, but I stayed in senior status. So basically, you work part-time and you have a schedule. But I just got probably a little frustrated as to what I was reading in the news. And we have 4 children. 3 of them live in Hillsborough County with 2 grandchildren. So I was really embarrassed and very concerned about what was going on in the Hillsborough County Attorney's Office. They have great people there. They have great lawyers, great staff. They just have no leadership. And so I decided to retire so I could run for this position because they really need someone. And I don't have all the answers, but I think I could bring to the table some of the things that I've learned through the years to restore public trust, public confidence in that office.
What do you see as the most glaring issue?
Well, I think
that if you win, that you could work on right away, that you think would make a big difference?
Well, the Attorney General's office came in for 9 months, and they started to establish policies and procedures. I certainly would continue that because you need to know. You need to have policies and procedures. Everybody needs, literally, figuratively, to be on the same page. And because you have 2 districts, you have the northern Manchester, you have southern Nashua. So those things, it's even more important. So there really needs to be sentencing guidelines, I think, so that plea deals that are made are consistent between each court. And you treat people equally.
Correct. It's not 2 sets of.
And the thing I've been meeting with police chiefs, and what I found was a lack of communication from the county attorney.
Oh,
not getting
interesting.
back to the local departments. And as I moved sort of out west, the western part of the county, even more so with the smaller towns. Because everybody, and these are felonies, most of them by far are felonies. And these are serious cases. Everyone's a victim. And the police won't find out about disposition of a case until months later and find out that there was a plea. And that police chief has to account for the victim. And obviously we have victim bill of rights, but everybody's a victim and everybody should have input into what's going on and also know what's going on a regular basis. So I would fix that. I'd make sure we had liaison, somebody from the county attorney's office to be in contact, a go-to person, as well as let them know on a regular basis what's going on with their cases and allow them to provide that input, recommendations as to disposition.
Because I can personally attest to that falling apart in my case. And so when you say that, I was like, wow, now I know how all this happened. That there was the lack of communication, that the police chiefs did not have any direct say into what's going on. And when they are the people that are arresting the felons and the criminals, it would seem to me the right thing to do, since they were firsthand there, to be able to give you the information that you need and be able to go back and forth and make sure that it moves smoothly. And
I see it as a team. It's important that the law enforcement at the local level knows what's going on. And if there's some reason why we have to negotiate a certain deal that they don't recommend, they need to know why. They need an explanation as to why. If the case is weak, so the case is weak, what can they do to improve it? If there's an issue with regard to the way it was investigated, okay, let's get you the training. Let's go over there.
Let's not let this happen again.
And so it doesn't happen again. So that's why it's important.
I like that idea. There's not a lot of people that feel they say team, but you don't see any teamwork. You see the members, but none of them are cohesive. They're not working in the same direction. They're not working together. Everybody seems to be guarding their space, guarding their desk, guarding their job, instead of working collectively together for one final, I don't know what the word is I want, but to one end goal.
Right. Well, a lot of this probably comes from the military as well, because when you're in a large command in a war zone, there's liaisons. So we have a tactical operations center, which basically runs the war. And within that tactical operations center are representatives from all the units. So and JAGs are a big part of that. Judge advocates are a big part of that.
Okay.
Because we have what they call a LOAC, Law of Armed Conflict. And the most important friend of commanders are the chaplain, the JAG, and the IG. Those are all the three really important people, and certainly the judge advocate and the chaplain are staff, personal staff of like a commanding general. So they always want to know where their chaplain is. They always want to know where their JAG is, because they're the ones that give them advice and try to keep them out of trouble. At least that's part of our mission as judge advocates is give advice.
I always wonder that
commanders.
because there is this, you have the shows on, and it's always about somebody that gets into trouble over back here in the States. So I didn't think that you would be over in the areas of conflict, but it makes sense that you would, because you don't want to just blatantly go blowing through a town and take away the people's rights and get yourself into trouble. So
my last deployment, 2010-11, was with the 4th Infantry Division. We were in northern Iraq, and they brought over a large contingency of JAGs. We had a staff judge advocate. We had lawyers all over the place. So it was important because you had military justice type that would prosecute. You had fiscal lawyers. You had rule of law. I did administrative law, so any administrative action north of Baghdad, that's I was in charge of, so we are responsible for. So it was very important that judge advocates, and we always remember too that we're the good guys. We got to do things right, even if it hurts. We got to do things right, and we got to be responsible.
So was it always that way in the military?
Well, I think for
you would actually go to the area of conflict?
Right. Yeah.
Really?
World War II, Korea, they had. And we were, those are more symmetrical. This is certainly asymmetrical. Where we were, especially in 07 in the green zone, just think of a bullseye on a target, because we got a lot of indirect fire. We had people killed, rockets would come in, mortars and everything, oftentimes on a daily basis. And
wow, so definitely a target there.
It was a target there, yeah. But my poor wife, when I was there, sometimes I'd email her. I said, "Well, gee whiz, the neighbors were noisy last night." Meaning we got we got some indirect fire. But it's important that we're there, because it's important that we're experiencing what the military members are experiencing. Also, that the commander is, the ones that we're giving advice to.
Right.
It's important that we're providing that information.
So you feel that you can take that information, everything that you learned over there, and bring it over here and put it in the county attorney's office and help to bring everybody together into a unit.
Right, and that's where I was getting to the point. Thank you for getting me back on track. But that was the point I was making, is that you have to have a sense of where you belong in the system. And it's remarkable how well young people did in those situations. Because I would swear that when I went to McDonald's and the guy behind the counter said, "You want fries with that, sir?" A week later, I'm in Iraq, and I'm being protected by the same guy that just said that. Because you give people the opportunity, and they do extraordinary things.
Absolutely.
And so you give them a chance. So I always remember that. And I always remember that you treat people with respect, and everybody, even defendants, anyone is treated with respect.
Well, you treat people the way you would like to be treated, and you would hope that they would rise to the occasion when given that opportunity.
Well, what interesting, it's really kind of, when I was here the first time in 2004, the Abu Ghraib case, remember the prison case that was going on?
Yeah.
So I was appointed as an investigating officer, and it was called an Article 32. It was almost like a probable cause hearing, and there were about 3 or 4 of us. I was a major at the time. So I held the hearing. I reviewed all the photographs, everything that you saw on the news, and we all had weapons. So I had a 9mm Beretta. I had a pistol. Defense lawyer had a gun. The defendant had a rifle. The prosecutor had a rifle, so we're all in a courtroom with weapons and ammunition.
And it worked.
And it worked. Well, it worked, because that's
how you do it.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it in a war zone.
So what would you say to the people of Nashua, Hillsborough, specifically that you could bring to them why they should vote for you? Apart from the obvious that we just talked about, what you could bring to the table and to help the actual Hillsborough County office to accomplish.
Okay. Well, I think it's all about leadership, about setting the tone. and restoring public trust and public confidence in that office.
So sorry to interrupt, but where do you think the disconnect is for public confidence with the office?
Well, it's because of the lack of communication and cooperation between, not the office itself, but between the county attorney and the police departments.
And what they can disseminate to the public and what and or victims.
And you know, I'm not an ideologue. I tell people as a judge, it was the easiest thing in the world. You know, it's like the umpire. You know, I may like the Red Sox, especially when they're playing the Yankees, but if it's a ball, it's a ball. If it's a strike, it's a strike. But as a county attorney, you're not that way. You're an advocate. And if, for example, the bail reform or the felonies first, if there's something that really is not a good idea, I could go to the legislature. You know, I could call my local legislator and I could say, gee whiz, this is not a good idea. Could you submit a bill? Right. And be active and try to get other county attorneys or police chiefs or defense counsel or prosecutors to do the same.
Have you found so far that the police chiefs are happy with what you're bringing forward, that they are feeling that they're more involved?
Well, I can't speak for the police chiefs, but the feedback I think is that they understand that I understand what everybody's relative role is, and that we're there to support local law enforcement, and we're there to apply justice equally to everyone. And I think that's all they expect,
right?
And also to be informed.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And again, thinking back, that was the frustration at the time. And I think it's important that people like to throw around accountability and transparency, and I like that you're using the word communication, because I think the other two words are overused. I don't think that they're being used the way that they should be. So when you talk about transparency, well, if you only open up the book into two pages and show those 2 pages, that's all you're going to see. So I don't like that word, and I think it's overused, and I appreciate you not using that word. I very much like the communication, having people more involved, having a say. Now, if there was an issue, would you be open to having, say, the crime victim come and speak with you if they felt frustration?
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely. It's the Hillsborough County Attorney, but it's a public office, and the public should have access, would have direct access. And I intend to go out, continue to see the police chiefs, continue to go see members of the defense bar. As a judge, I get to know a number, not only prosecutors but defense lawyers.
Right.
And and collectively the system works if everybody does their job, and if everybody's is honest about it and it takes it seriously. Seriously in terms of why we're there. And we're there basically because there's a process, and the process has to work out.
Right.
And sometimes it takes longer than it should, but it does work out.
Yep. And the crime victims, it's in your office, but the crime department,
the victim advocates,
I found them to be very, very helpful.
Yes.
And obviously you're going to continue that.
Absolutely.
Okay,
right,
good.
Right.
And reaching out to the families and the victims too.
Right. Well, even I intend to take that even further, because the victim advocates are usually for domestic related crimes, things like that. But I think if I'm out in Hillsborough, New Hampshire, and my windshield gets broken, and they find the person, well, I want to know. I want to be able to maybe talk to the police chief about it. I want to be able to maybe even talk to the county attorney. As a county attorney, I want to know what that person thinks, because is it a minor thing? Well, it's maybe minor to me. It's not minor to the victim. And the victim, it's very important. It's a very important part of their life.
Well, you need to feel that.
Even one for what happens if it's a person of color that does that? And all of a sudden, do you think because I'm a person of color, that's why these people did this? Is it racially motivated?
Right.
So all these things are important. All victims are very important.
They all need a voice. They
Yes.
all need to feel that they're part of the process, even if it's not the ultimate decision making. There needs to be, and I think that's missing in society in every facet, that people are not part of the process. It's like, this is how we do it, so we're just going to go on ahead and you can sit over there. You can be a spectator, and I don't think that's a good thing, because number one, it doesn't let people feel that they're invested in it. They don't feel that they have any say. It leaves them feeling like a victim instead of being able to move forward and say, that's no longer who I am.
I can't imagine as a victim something happens and 5 months later I hear, because I never have a kind of a closure to that. because I never had the input that I should have had. At least if, for example, there's a negotiated plea, you should know why there's a negotiated plea and why it is that plea. If you say, I don't care, or I just want to get the money, and a letter of apology.
Right.
Well, that should become a part of the plea.
And to some point, if it's possible, why did it happen? Is it something I did or something I didn't do? Because sometimes that's a two-way road. It's not always just that person's fault. Sometimes it can be something that the victim said or did that escalated a situation. And I just think education and including everybody into what the whole process is just makes it better for the next time and the next person, instead of just whitewashing it or just being because that's the way we do it, or because I said so.
and as a judge, oftentimes I would see that, for example, in stalking, where you have two families and that they're fighting, or they might be related, or a boyfriend, girlfriend. It's not a domestic, but part of what I would try to indicate to them is long after the court goes away, their lives are going to continue, and they're going to continue to have potentially either good interactions or bad interactions. So how do we fix it long term? And sometimes I would propose, for example, let's continue this case for 90 days. The temporary orders continue. If nothing occurs, then we'll dismiss it, because that way the petitionee feels that, okay, I've been vindicated. But the petitioner says, look, I got this temporary stay. The judge heard me. It was granted on a temporary basis.
So it's a win always round.
It's a win.
But also having to move on with your life and see if you can continue.
Right, and there's no winners or losers.
Right.
And that's important in those types of cases, because they're going to run, it's almost like with two people have a child together, and then they separate. They're always going to have that child together.
Correct. And you don't want to have one winner, one loser.
Right.
You want to have equal.
And there's going to be plenty of birthdays and graduations and things like that. So if the parties could work together, then that's important.
I love that. Important. So could you tell everybody how they can sign up and help you put out signs,
sure.
Get on your team? What is your website that people can reach you at?
It's johncoughlin2020.com.
johncoughlin2020.com.
Yes.
And anything in particular? Do you need some more signs put out? What do you need? I'm seeing them pop up all over.
Well, we're doing all right with signs. I just got some more, so I'm happy.
Okay, so reach out. You can get some more signs.
Signs are sort of like when you paint a bedroom. When you get done, it's something nice to look at.
Exactly. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming and joining us and explaining who you are, what you're about, what you would like to do as county attorney.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me.
Anytime, and any questions, johncoughlin2020.com.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and thanks for joining me. See you next week.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.